And so here you are now with this town job. What do you do for the town?
Well, the town job is really interesting because it goes from the mundane to the really exciting. So I get involved with everything from working with the DPW to address the issue relative to encroachments on town property in terms of defining them, getting in touch with the people that have encroached and getting the encroachments removed.
What did they do before you did that? How would that be handled?
Well, the thing was that it was done in a much more sporadic basis, and in fact, this morning I had a meeting with Steve Arsenault out at DPW, and we've agreed upon a standard operating procedure with respect to the roles of the DPW and the roles of town administration in terms of how do we identify it, how do we make sure that we do proper notification, how do we then follow through to make sure that the work is done to be able to address the concerns that are addressed. Those are more public safety and issues such as that in terms of dealing with. The other end of the spectrum is I was very much involved with the acquisition of the piece of land on Amelia Drive for the town with respect to affordable housing and access into the fairgrounds property, which is a really very, very interesting thing because there are multiple uses that property can have that are unique for the town because it can provide access, it can provide affordable housing, and it can also provide some commercial space that in fact makes the property very workable from a numbers point of view.
Now you're talking about the fairgrounds property that's going to be developed as
for affordable housing, right? Yeah,
and so there'll be an entrance from Amelia Drive into there.
Yeah, so the Amelia Drive will provide a second level of entrance or exit into the property,
which needs to happen.
Which needed to happen. Yeah. So I mean, it ended up solving a lot of different issues because it addressed access, it addressed housing, and it addressed helping to address some of the other issues on Amelia Drive itself with respect to the parking on Amelia Drive.
So the mundane portion.
Yeah.
Now, what would that entail?
Well, the thing is that is dealing with, for instance, issues that have arisen relative to the property at Academy Hill, dealing with complaints with respect to the tenants that have relative to the management of it. How we can address those?
Oh, because why? Academy Hill.
Well, the fact is that the town owns the building, the land in the building at Academy Hill, and it is leased to Hallkeen, which is an entity that is managing it.
I see.
Right. And so there are issues that are raised, comes to the town and said, you've got to help us because such and such hasn't been happening. And so I get involved in taking a look at the leases, finding out whose obligation it is and how do we address it and how do we get it fixed. And then the other side of the coin is that I've had a lot of involvement with Tucker Holland and the Affordable Housing Trust Fund in terms of helping to set up the parameters and the guidelines for what we do with respect to the $20 million that was awarded at town meeting for creating affordable housing, and the $5 million that came from the CPC with respect to affordable housing. In addition, I still am chair of the Community Preservation Committee.
One busy guy.
That's been an exciting role.
You've been with that. That's right. That's a whole nother thing.
I've done that from the beginning.
From the very beginning.
Yeah. So and that's been really interesting because we have reallocated upwards of $46 million back into the town, including more than $11 or $12 million that we got from the state. That had we not gotten involved with the CPC from the beginning, we would have never gotten it as a community. So it's been something that's been really very beneficial.
It's changed over the years. We won't spend too much time on that, but it has kind of evolved, right?
It's
become more towards housing and less.
Well, the thing is that we've always had to make an allocation in each of three areas. That is housing, open space, and historic preservation. And what's been interesting is that over the years, the allocations have never been necessarily consistently divided, but when we look back over the 19 years, it's been incredible that it's been almost about a third has gone into each category. And that the thing that amazed me most was that much had gone into open space because of the other open space categories we have, but the things that went into open space were things that we couldn't do through the other categories. So it has worked out really very well and beneficial for the town.
Okay.
But again, so I've been involved with respect to the work that's being done, looking at whether or not we should have a new senior center, what we should be involved with respect to the senior center, where it should be, and so through the town we have engaged consultants to come back to us with a report in terms of what a senior center should look like based on the needs that we've expressed to them as a community, and also what needs to happen in terms of where it could be built, because we're looking at two potential sites, several potential sites, but one which is an existing structure to see whether or not
is that the one over near the
Westchester.
Yeah,
right. And so part of what we were doing was to make sure that there was an independent look at that, so that anybody that takes a look at what we're deciding, we're having an objective view in terms of what are the criteria with respect to going on. So,
wow, man. Now, do people need to call you? Can they just call you with a real estate question? I mean, how does the public benefit?
Well, the thing is,
like on a personal level.
Well, the thing is that what happens is that whenever a call comes into town administration and it's a real estate related issue, they forward it over to me and I deal with it.
Do you work alone?
I am a one-person department.
Okay.
Right now.
Right now you are.
Right. Yeah. And I don't see that changing much because of the fact that I report to Libby.
Is this full time?
Yes, full time.
It's full time.
I work from 8 to 4, 5 days a week. And
you're happy. It seems like you're doing
well. And the thing is that I also I then attend all of the select board meetings because there are a number of real estate issues generally on the agenda, but also it's a really learning process for me because, in fact, becoming aware of all of the issues that come up through the select board gives you a greater sense of what's going on in the community and how to address those issues for the community. So,
one thing that I didn't bring up was, speak of the devil, there she is.
Yep.
Real estate, we've got Sconset Beach Preservation Fund.
Yeah.
Okay, that's environmental. Right. And when we've got Brand Point and anything close to the coastline.
Yeah, the whole issue of sea level rise is something that obviously puts another dimension into the issues that we're looking at from a real estate point of view. Because the fact is that we need to recognize that that's an issue, and we need to figure out as a town how to deal with it, because in fact the historical part of the town is obviously exposed to that because of the fact that we're right down on the harbor. And so that's one of the things that I think the town is really very forward thinking. 2 or 3 years ago they started already in the process before it became as much of an issue as it has become in terms of what's happened through the last 2 winters, where we've in fact seen the actual effects of sea level rise, sort of the 100-year-old storms that don't come once a year and come every 2 years.
Well, I mean, you don't have many choices, do you? You either build a wall and try to stave it off.
You either figure out how to, you figure out how to solve the problem, because the fact is that it's solvable because look, the people in Holland have figured out how to do it. They have been dealing with the issues.
They've been dealing with it for centuries.
I understand, but the fact is that we don't have to throw up our hands and angst and run away. The fact is that we recognize that it's an issue, and the thing is that I think that as a community we're saying that we have to address it, because in fact preservation of the downtown is really important to who we are as a community.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, it is the essence of the sense of what's been preserved for a couple of 100 years.
That's it. Well, this was very interesting. I'm glad we did it.
It's been, from my, I told Libby, I said that the job is very different than what you and I first talked about, but it is much more exciting and much more challenging in the sense that there are a lot of issues that people don't realize that the town has to think about and address.
You know a lot about what's going on too, Ken. I mean, you've been here long enough and you've been involved in, so many different aspects.
I think that's been a thing that's been helpful for me because of the fact that
so we're lucky.
Because I do know how the town works. I do know a lot of the people, and so it allows a communication to go on, that is not threatening. Because my role is not to be a threatening role.
Of course.
My role is to be helpful in terms of finding a solution to what we need to do to be able to move ahead as a town.
That's great.
So,
thank you very much.
Gino,
always good to see you.
Okay.
Even way back when we used to do advertising for you.
Absolutely.
When I first started my business, you were there for me. I appreciate that.
Well, the thing is,
you're a good sponsor.
But that's what this community's been all about.
I know that. I know it.
It's what makes it a good community.
Exactly.